Good morning. Is this thing still on? Yeah. Good morning. My name is Ollie, and this is Thoughts with Ollie. And seen by the title, you are here to listen about my journey on religion and how I got to where I am today. Bit of a backstory. I I grew up in a Christian household where my mom was Christian, my dad was Christian, my brother's Christian. I was Christian. I was Christian, and we went to church. Me and my brother and my mom would go to church, but I never went to church on the basis of I had an experience with Jesus Christ or I understood why I was at church. I understood that you had to go to church, but there was no deeper meaning. I knew there was a thing that's called the Bible. I knew there was someone called God and Jesus, but I knew you had to do this thing called praying. I understood that it had deeper meaning for certain people, and but what looking like more, yeah, and Jesus Christ saved people's lives, this, that, and the third. But for me, especially growing up, I was just they like, okay, I'd sleep in church, I'd fool around in church because I had no real purpose of why I am there. This was my reality from as early as I can remember until about grade 4. That's when I started developing this mentality of why do we hate this guy so much? By this guy, I obviously mean Satan. I was like, why do we hate him so much? What did he do so wrong? Then they tell me that, oh no, he betrayed God and did bad and he did this and that and third. And I was like, but like, then this is my kid brain. Like, but we never heard the other side of the story. Why don't we want to actually hear the other side of the story and not want to and then crucify him after hearing the other side of the story, because we don't know his point of view and all of that. Everything is very important when we talk about perspective. Perspective changes the story. Without any clear perspective, your story doesn't make sense. So I was like, I get the premise of Christianity and why we hate this person and this and that, but why do we hate Satan so much? And then I did my deep dive into Satanism, as controversial as that is. I did my deep dive into Satanism and Satan as a whole, and then I found out as much as I could, especially with my limited resources as a kid. Um, you know, I've watched so many interviews. There was a Jubilee um roundtable that they did where it was Satanists versus Christians, and you look at the average Satanist and you look at the average Christian. If you were walking down the street, you wouldn't be able to tell who's who. And then I'm like, these are people. Why do we hate these people so much? And my reasoning behind it all was, you can't hate a Christian. Okay, you can't hate a Satanist because they have a religion they believe in. They have their own God. They have their own Bible. Same thing is going on this end. So why do we hate other people for doing the same thing that we're also doing? We have no problem with uh, Muslims. We have no problems with Jews. We have no problems with monks. We have no problem with uh, Nigerians and what they believe in. Sorry if you're watching this thing from Nigeria and if you want to correct me and film me, and I'll do more research onto it. But yeah, their beliefs and different other populations and people, cultures, they have their own beliefs. But why do you have a problem with this one when they're basically doing the same thing? And most Satanists, they aren't bad people. Most Satanists are good people. Most Satanists are morally more just than some Christians. Their rituals might be unconventional, but they are still normal people. So I was like, why do we hate people for doing what they believe in when we do what we say is good, then it's accepted? Um, to the point where at some point I wanted to read the Devil's Bible. So um, the Devil's Bible, it's like a book like this big. I saw it on Natural Geographic once, and I was like, I have to read that. But the rumor is about it is once someone finishes the Devil's Bible, it's gonna start raining blood and this and that. The demons are gonna come, whatever. But in my kid brain, I was like, I have to read this because I have to understand. Like the market is so saturated with this side of the story. I need to know what's going on here, not because I want to follow this, but I want to understand why it is the way it is. I personally don't believe that there's anything wrong with trying to find out why people are the way they are. Try and understand why a killer kills. Try and understand why a rapist rapes. Try and understand why a psychopath is a psychopath. Try and understand why a Down syndrome kid is a Down syndrome kid. Try and understand people for who they are. Try and understand your ex, why he cheated on you. Try and understand why your friend betrayed you. Try and understand why your friend is a good person, why the pastor is also a good person, or your mom is like this. Try and see people from their POV. That's my mantra in life. Calm. So I did my deep dive and I wanted to read the book and I watched my interviews. I did my Google researches and whatever. Yes, the depictions of Satanism are scary, but the followers themselves aren't bad people. So I was like, they're only bad because they believe in something opposed to what is the norm. Calm. So grade 4, grade 5, that's when I decided religion isn't for me. I went into the science path where, because my reasoning behind it was science makes more sense. There's reasons and experiments and hypotheses and theories that make sense in actual context. Science is this is Vaseline, this is a Vaseline, or whatever lotion. And you see, we can prove this because there's lotion inside, and the brand says lotion, whatnot. When the Christianity was have faith that this is lotion. Actually, have faith that what I have in my hand is lotion. You know, it's hard for the human brain, or let me say for me, it's hard for me to believe in something when I don't know if it is the thing. I feel like that's something that a lot of people can relate to. I can't take your word for it without knowing that it's actually there or it actually is true. That's I guess, again, the whole premise of Christianity: have faith. And I didn't have faith in it all. I was skeptical of it all. I had my questions on why Christianity was the way it was. And the answer you are given is read the Bible. Yes, anyone can read the Bible, but it didn't click. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Yes, I read the Bible, but it still doesn't make sense. There's nothing to this or to any of this. I went down the science path, um, and then the Big Bang, the whatnots, this and that, evolution, monkeys, and all that. I was like, this all makes sense. Why we are the way we are, or how we got to where we are. It's reasonable, rather than someone saying, let it be clear, let there be light, let there be land. It makes more sense to say this thing happened and then it caused this, and then Earth, asteroids, what. Calm. Um, that was me, and I went science route just like this. And then around 12 to about like 14, saying, I started making the connection between science and religion or Christianity as a whole, whereas like um, Christianity does the miracles, science explains it, which is basically what is it is, where science is just catching up to what the power of God has done. You know, um, Science is just the explanation of why it is the way we are. God made a person. Science explains how a person is made. God designed this. Science explained how it's formed and whatnot. Maybe that's just my reasoning. Um, so I basically, from 11, I became an atheist. I became an atheist. Life was calm. I didn't believe in God. I wouldn't pray. When people would pray at school, I'd just be there like, okay. With that, my doubts in prayer also came from the notion of, in the context of South Africa, Christianity is a white man's religion in the context of South Africa. Because, sorry about that. Unlike the countries up north or in the west of Africa, where Christianity to them was brought by the Arabs, um, or maybe the Arabs. To us, Christianity was brought to us by the white man as a medium of control to try and indoctrinate us into a system where they could take away our beliefs, our traditional belief systems, and they could use Christianity as a way to destroy or remove us from our connection with the land of Africa and so forth. That's also part of the reason I was like, ugh, man, like, why? I was atheist until about grade 10. Grade 10. There was a speech we had to do in school where English speech, where the topic was, does God exist, or something like that. And for me, I was so drawn to that. And everyone in class knew that they saw that topic. They were like, this guy, that's him. So I saw that topic and I was like, this one is the one for me. And I took that topic and I did my speech on both sides, you know, the miracle of God and even exist, and the from the human perspective of, what if you live your whole life and you find out that God doesn't exist? As a Christian, what if you are a Christian and you live your whole life thinking that God exists, but then he actually doesn't exist? Or maybe if you lived your whole life as a non-Christian, then you find out that God does exist. It's a double-edged sword where you have to pick a side. It's either you're wrong or right. And why do you, for some people, the reason why they go into religion is not because they actually believe in God, but because they want a safeguard for Christianity. I mean, for their entrance to heaven. Heaven. They don't believe in God, but they'd be like, if I can do this and that, I'll get into heaven. And then you die and then find out there is no heaven. So for the atheist point of view, it's more of, they're looking at the Christian as saying, you're doing this as a maybe, when I'm living my life as a guarantee that there is nothing there. You are just safeguarding, you're just RSVP in your position in heaven, and then finding out that heaven isn't there. And then as a atheist dying and then finding out that there is a God, it's gonna be like, damn, I should have, but I didn't. I do. You're just gonna go to hell. And I did that speech. I wrote it that morning, the morning it was due, and I did it, and I think I got like an 80, 75 to like 83 around there for that speech. Fine. Life goes on, a bit of a time skip, and then I'm still a bit agnostic, where I'm in the mindset. So the definition of agnostic is, you believe there is something out there, but you just don't put a definition or label to, this is what it is. You're on the fence. You're like, is there isn't, I don't know. When atheist is, I'm on this side. Christianity is, or like religion is saying, I'm on this side. As an agnostic person, you are playing both sides, you're playing both teams, and you're swerving and swaying. That's around the time when I also did my research on every single religion as I could, because I wanted to go into religion again. I felt something drawing me to religion. My mindset at the time was saying, don't go into Christianity, because for me, I didn't look at religion as my relationship with God, but I looked at my religion as my relationship with the community. that represent the religion. Sorry about that. Okay. Drink about 3 liters of water every single day. So come, I looked at religion as the community because I was like, the only thing me in my human experience that I'm guaranteed is seeing the people. I'm not guaranteed in seeing God, but the group of people I'm guaranteed in knowing that they actually exist and they actually work. And I can see how they act and their impact on society. I'm guaranteed I can see that I have evidence of what they've done. When I don't have specific, explicit evidence of what God has done, when some people can argue now that the evidence of God is creation as a whole, but then you could also counter that with saying, so what if you created? That you could have created me, but then I live a shit life. So why do you create me? When someone can argue that I've seen more good done by people than by God. You go into the argument of God, why did God let wars, or why did God let people get killed? Why did God allow people to get hungry or starve? You know, you can go and say that I've seen more people do good than the actions of God himself or herself or whatever gender non-conforming belief you. Justice, I'm going to get cancelled for that. So I looked at religion as the community. So I did. I looked at Ibai faith. I looked at Buddhism. I looked at Judaism. I looked at Christianity. I looked at Islam. I looked at being a monk at some point. I looked at as many as I could. You know, I practiced here a bit. Like, oh, okay, this. You know, I like this. You know, at first I tried being a Buddha. You know, the Buddha lifestyle of praying, live a free life. Because my reason was Buddha was an actual person with actual records, and no one takes Buddha as a god. They take Buddha as source of wisdom and a way to live life, kind of like your Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ light, where no one puts Buddha as the level of a god. They recognize he was a human being who might have had his faults, but then the way he lived his life was so in tune to the human experience and the human mind and the human psyche that it's a good example of how to reach happiness and contentness in your whole life and enlightenment as a whole, where you are free of all worldly desires and nothing to the world is essentially pulling you. I was very drawn to that because I was like, it also plays to my agnostic thing of now I don't have to place to a multiversal being that can do miracles out of nowhere. I don't have to follow a multiversal being like that, where I can just follow the teachings of a human being or a person that did exist. When you can also argue that Jesus Christ was there, but then the difference between Jesus Christ and Buddha is that Jesus Christ put himself as a level of God, the creator of all and all that was and all that will be. I tried being a Buddha. I was like, yeah, this is cool, but I was like, knowing the person I am, I needed structure. I needed to be straight, and that's when I was like, Christianity. I was like, hell no. Nah. Mainly because only because of the people that represented the Christianity at the time, or the people I saw represent Christianity at the time, they didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. The way I saw Christians around me acting, they would sin and it would be like, oh, well, God will forgive me, second chance, repentance, baptism, we do it over again. There was a joke I saw where, I think it was a reel I saw where back in the days, like a medieval thing where this guy, he just kills someone and then he runs over to the church and be like, Pastor, can you baptize me real quick? Baptize me real quick. And then they baptize him. The cops come and then they'll be like, you have not been cleaned of your sins. And then the cops are like, damn it. We can't take him to prison now because he's been forgiven. Come on. That's basically the premise of how I saw Christianity, and I was like via Puza, they get drunk, they sin, they do this, that, and the third, and then they'd be like, I'm still a Christian. God loves me. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. And be like, that you being a Christian does not exalt you from the sin that you do every single day. God will not forgive you on the basis that you are just his child. Maybe he will, but he will not allow you to get the benefits just because you claim to be his child. Then I went over to next door. I skipped Judaism. I can't lie, because the requirements to get into it was, I believe you, correct me if I'm wrong, that your mom has to be a Jew, you need to have Jew blood, and then everything was promised to you 3,000 years ago. Nothing was promised to me. That no, you have to work for everything that you own. This might get shadow banned because I mentioned the J word, but I don't know. Okay. Then I saw Islam. Oh, whew, Islam. I have a very special relationship with Islam, where one, it was the first religion, or it was that was my first encounter receiving the love for God, the love for God. Um, Islam was my official first experience with religion. My journey with Islam started in matric, um, where out of nowhere, a lot of my content on my social medias were just Islam, Islam, Muslims. What are they praying? The unity, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the protecting the. It was beautiful, and I was like, yo, these people are, they are like this. They know the story. They know what they're doing in life, and they aren't playing about, and they are focused. They have a. Anyone talks nonsense about Allah, and they are like, telling you, man. Otoniel. Um, the respect and the fear they had for their God, when the Christian would be like, Jesus Christ was my bae, wada, or Jesus Christ is a dummy, and then they'll be like, okay, cool. Jesus Christ was a dummy. Or they'll just let it slide, where I'll be like, if you love this person so much, why do you not defend them and all of that? That was my reasoning back in the day. Matric happened, and a lot of my content, I was like, ah, man, what's going on here? Luckily, I had two great, great friends back in matric, Fanaz and Zia. Two Muslim individuals, good friends. We were in art class, and I told them that, yo, dog, I'm interested in this. And then they were like, yo, you really want to? I was like, yeah, man, I genuinely want to learn more about Islam. I genuinely didn't know they were Muslim. I thought they were Indian, because my image of, I thought they were like Hindu or something like that. But they were like, no, we're Muslims. I was like, oh shit, cool. And then the very, I think next day or next week, ooh, I don't know if I can, but okay. So Franaz gave me a stack of books like this big, of like teachings, and trying to learn teachings in Islam and the proper way to act. I forgot the specific names. I'll put the specific names of what these things are, but like it's the fuck, surah, the surah, the what? I'll put the names. Sorry for butchering the names. I haven't practiced in a very long time, but yeah, they opened me their open arms and all that, which is something that I loved, because my experience with religion, especially when I didn't want religion, was I'd be like, yo, I'm atheist. The Christian would be like, you're atheist. No ways, no ways. You see the Bible, my brother. Why do you read this? Read this. You should no read this. You're gonna die. You're gonna burn. You're gonna burn. When I was like, why are you forcing this on me when I don't want it? That's not the best way. I carry bare. You can take the donkey to the river, but you can't make the river drink the donkey, as they say. You can't force me to. You can't force feed me something I don't want. I'm gonna spit it out right after. That was my normal experience with Christianity as a whole, where every single Christian I went to, they try to force feed me this thing that I don't want. I hated it. I'll say it. I hated it. Um, when I was open to it, I guess this was just a circumstantial thing where I just had a bit more preference for Islam. But when I went to Islam, they opened me, and I started Islam in Ramadan, 2023. I was like, I'm gonna fast for the first time in my life in Ramadan with everyone. And another friend of mine, Sakani, he gave me he borrowed me his dad's Quran, which it was thick Quran. It was like this big, like thick. It had an English and Arabic translation, and then also had explanations at the bottom. Beautiful book. I carried that thing everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, I read it day in, day out, in the bus, in the toilet, in class, reading period, free time, on the ground. I read it everywhere. Saturday school, people would be grooving. I remember specific memories where I went to Saturday school, and that Saturday school is basically known for fun times and people will groove. First of all, if you know me, you know I'm not a groove person. I have two left feet. Three, actually. I have three left feet. So I can't dance for things. And I don't find enjoyment in all of that because it brings about bad energy. That's just what I believe in. It brings about bad energy, lustfulness, and all these other things. And I don't want to associate myself with that. So what do? I do things that are more constructive to my life. I'm not putting myself on a moral high horse. This is just what I think and what is good for me. Calm. People be grooving that other side on that other field. I don't mind sitting alone, opening up the Quran, and then just keeping it 1,000, and then just reading the Quran and moving on with life. So I would read the Quran and yeah. So I would sit in the corner and just read the whole Quran. Just like I got far in it, very far, and in like a short space of time. So I fasted. I that Ramadan was so beautiful because I also got the benefits of fasting and all these other things, and realizing the meaning for fasting and why people do it. It's not because we're doing it just to fast, but then you're restricting yourself with food. But then that's just the first level of fasting. You're restricting yourself of all humanly desires because the only thing you need is the love of God. You know, you are removing these things that are drawing your attention just so that you can focus on the most important thing, and that's your relationship with God. And I understood it. I got it. That I understood. I wanted the love of God, and I felt the love of God, or I felt mm, I got the ability to love God. I don't know if He loved me back, but I felt warm and peaceful and so enlightened. That was arguably to this day still the happiest point I was in life, where I felt light. I felt okay. Prayed 5 times a day. I didn't even go to mosque in my first couple months of Islam. I was scared. I was like, what if I don't fit in? Or, yeah, what if people look at me weird? But then I was like, at some point, I was like, because my friends, Fanaz and Zia, they'd be like, yeah, let's go to mosque, let's go to mosque, let's go to mosque. I'd be like, no, it's not time, I'm not ready. Yeah. And I ended up going to mosque. The process to going to mosque was kind of weird because I couldn't tell my parents or my family that I'm practicing being a Muslim because black stereotype of Wetsakantoyama Gula. I know that's a derogatory word, um, but I kind of have to say it. So for anyone hearing that, and feels offended, I'm not saying it as a way to insult anyone, but then this is just the black community. They still say these words. They still say that. I know it's a derogatory word, but then that's not something that we do in this house. The Christian mindset of you don't do anything that's out of this house, and that's things we don't believe in, which I understand. When you raise someone, you want them to adopt your beliefs and so forth. Um, that's fair. I guess, especially as a parent. So I couldn't tell my parents about it. There's only one person in my family that I told about my change in religion, and that was my older brother. And he was like, "Oh, cool, shit." He obviously made his jokes, well, Abdul and all these other things. Oli Abdul. My friends actually came up with the name Oli Abdul Ibrahim. That's the name they gave me, especially when I was still high and mighty strong in my whole religion and or my beginning of my religion journey. I had plans to try and convert at a certain point, and I realized that I love this religion so much that I was going to adopt it, and it basically affected every single relationship in my life, but most importantly, my romantic relationship in my life. Where the question would be, do you expect me to convert to Islam, coming from my partner at the time or my girlfriend at the time? And I was like, religiously, I have to, but because I am me, I'm still a human being. I don't believe in this this notion that the woman must adopt to the man's religion just because I'm getting married to this man. I don't believe in that. I want you to experience religion the same way I believed I got it. I will educate it to you, but I don't want you to say I'm a Muslim because I married this person. I want it to be I'm a Muslim because I learned about the love of God and I felt the love of God, not because I married you. I can marry you and still not feel the love of God. Then what are you? Are you really a Muslim? Because it doesn't. Your label is not corresponding to what you have in here in your heart. So I believed in that thing. That's also the same way how I want to run my family. I'm not gonna force my religious beliefs onto my family. Religious beliefs. I'm not gonna force my religious beliefs on my family. I'm gonna allow everyone to do what they believe is right. The same way how I chose my religion, I want them to choose their own religions. I want everyone to choose their own religion. If you believe that that's the right way to live life, who am I as another human being to determine what you do with your own life? I can only condemn what I know is wrong, like explicitly wrong, like this thing is killing you, this thing is wrong, but I can't tell you what to put into your heart. This is also something I also learned from my father, where he was also. It took a while for me to be able to tell him, "Oh no, I am practicing this, and this is what I believe in." And he was, God bless his soul, he was so open to it, and he was like, "Hey, dog, as much as I say I'm a Christian, I also don't know what's gonna happen after here, So you follow what you believe is the right way, and I will still love you no matter what." And that's the mindset that I want to take into my household, where my kids, I will educate them about every single religion as I can. And then at a certain age, maybe about like 17, 16, when around the same time when I chose, that's when they'll be like, no, I want to follow this. And I will hold them accountable to that belief system, same way how I hold everyone I know accountable to their belief system. Sharp. Um, Matric was the first time I felt the love of God, and it was beautiful. And I felt, to this day, I'm chasing the dragon. I'm chasing the dragon. I'm chasing the dragon. I'm trying to feel like that as much as I can. First year hits, and then late into the year, first, not even late, but then in the middle of first year, I get a DDS attack of Christian content. A lot, a lot, a lot. And now, instead of seeing the Christians that I know that are ill mannered and immoral and all these other things, and then just putting on the sticker of I'm a Christian and life goes on, I start seeing serious Christians. I start seeing a Christian. I start seeing Christians, and I was like, "Damn, bro, can't you yell like this?" Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, because what I'm exposed to is the mega churches, church tags, guys in Ferraris where the congregation is starving. I'm used to partying and sinning. I'm used to those Christians. That's what I was exposed to. And then I see your Jordan Petersons. I see your Cliff. I see your other Christian content creators, and now I'm looking at it. I'm looking at Christianity at a different lens now, where like, no man, what's going on here? And then I get fed more Christian content, more your Stuart also as well with his father. That was also a beautiful thing where they go to schools and colleges and then they'll just debate kids and just feed them information and go back and forth and try to understand where they're going at. And I'd be like, oh damn, I had the same question as this guy and now it's answered. It's not just about reading the Bible and you understand everything, but then there has to be more to it. I started seeing that content and I was like, no man. Another thing, as much as people might joke to me about this, I also in my matric year we also read the book Life of Pi, where Piscine Pi, he followed three religions. He was a Hindu, he was a Muslim, he was a Christian all at the same time. He was practicing all three religions. And I was like, his answer was like, why do I have to choose only one way to love God when I can do it in so many other ways? That's a beautiful message where you can also apply to social relationships where you could be like, why do I only have to love you in one way where there's so many ways that you want to be loved, and I want to love you as many ways I can. I want to love bomb you. I want to physical touch. I want to words of affirmations. I want to do so many kinds. So why should there only be one way to love God when I can love them? I can love them in many different kinds. And then I adopted that nature of, because at that time, even to today, I have not made a pledge to a God or a pledge to a religious system. That's arguably my biggest fear right now. No, one of my fears right now, where all I'm doing is practicing the practices and the rituals and all this, but I have not said, Jesus Christ, you're my Lord and Savior. I have not said, Muhammad, I follow you. Peace be upon you, Muhammad, to Allah. I have not said any of this, but I'm still practicing. I'm still reading my Bible every single day. I'm reading the Quran every single day. I'm praying in both Christianity and Islam at the same time. I'm feeding myself both content from both worlds, and it's confusing. I'll be honest, it's confusing. To present day me right now, I don't know what's gonna happen. Um, I've gained so much love. I'm at a crossroad where I can go with my first love, Christianity, I mean Islam, where this was my first experience with how I loved God. But then Christianity, when I started seeing actual Christians, I learned about the love of Jesus Christ and how that builds people. And there's so much I can do. A whole video, like another 40-minute video, like I'm doing with this one. I actually tried to compress this video, but I couldn't because it's fueling so much. I could deep dive into how I learned the impact of Jesus Christ impacting my life, and it was, I understood. I got the hype. I got the everything about it. I was like, oh yeah, now I've fallen down the train where now I'm showing the characteristics more of a Christian, but without having the pledge. I haven't said that Jesus Christ, you're my Lord and Savior, as I said before. And it's scary because back to the one Bible verse that everyone fears, that be gone from me because I did not know you. You acted in my name. You said you acted in my name, but then you never accepted me into your heart. And I accept both of them into my heart. But then God is a jealous God. God only wants to be, I guess, loved in one way. And There's only, I guess, one. In the world of religion, you should only love God in one particular manner. And I understand that you can't serve two versions of the same God. When my understanding is all three Arabic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Muslim, are all sister religions, praising the same God. You can't love God in different ways. There is a proper way to love God, where in Islam you love God through Muhammad, and Jesus Christ is just seen as a great prophet, where in Christianity it's seen as Jesus Christ is the Lord. He was just brought down to earth as a man. I need to figure out my path in how to love him, but right now I'm swinging more into the Christianity point of view, more because I'm finally giving it a chance when I didn't give it a chance back in my youth. I'm saying youth as if I'm like 40 something, but youth was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, which 10 years ago I was 10, 10, 9. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. I don't know what I want to happen to me. I've accepted the fate that I might not go to heaven, and that's not the point of it all. The point is, I just want to build a relationship with God. I for the longest I believe that why would God crucify good people? Why would God crucify good people with good morals? Why would God crucify anyone for being good? People that actually experience doing good. That's the atheist argument of, will God crucify me even though I was a good person? I donated to charity, I gave to the poor, I helped everyone, I loved everyone. I just didn't have the stamp of I'm a Christian. Why does God crucify those people? But then it's more of, he only crucifies them because you did not allow me into your heart, where all you're doing is your works. Because you didn't allow me to have an effect in your life, why should I allow you into my home? Yes, you are my child, and it's painful that you won't be with me, but then I love you as a parent, and as a parent, I kind of have to watch you burn. And if you burning makes you realize that you're wrong, then so be it. And this does not apply to people that have never heard the love of God. I'm just talking in the context of, why does God punish good people? And being a good person is not enough. It was never enough. You have to accept Him into your heart. And I'm well aware that this is a religion not natural to the African child, you know, especially on the south side of the equator. This is not a religion that's natural to us. We had our gods, Mujimu, we had ancestors, we had all these other things, especially as a Tswana boy. But for me, I guess the advantage that Christianity has over me is I did not grow up as a traditional or as a traditional Tswana person. I grew up in the system of Christianity playing as a Tswana speaking character. I'm only Tswana by the language, which I barely know any of it. I'm represent more characteristics of a Christian than I do of my African heritage. Do I live for two gods at the moment? Possibly yes. Yes, definitely. Let me take accountability. Am I confused? Yes. Am I content with being wrong and saying that you are playing both sides for too long and it might end you in shit? Yes. I'm content with it. And if I get crucified for me not being able to make a choice, because there's also levels to it of skepticism, where as much as I felt the love of God and everything, as a human being, I will always need that guarantee. That's, I guess, the one fault I have in my faith of, it's not 100% faith. Again, also me right now, I still haven't felt the miracles of God. my reason for going into Christianity at the moment is not because I felt a supernatural experience. I spoke in tongues, I blacked out or anything. It's because I saw the way that I've seen the way that Christianity, the Christian morals have built society. Same with the Islamic morals have built society, and they've built astounding people and people that have sins, people that have a purposeful life, people that want to do good. I've seen that, and I've seen the impact of what those morals have done to my life and how I've carried myself in society and my community as a large, and how much good it's done for my people, not only myself but for my people. And I'm like, I need to adopt this, because if I want to build in life, I need to adopt these morals. I understand why they are, but then until I get that supernatural experience of I've met God, I don't. That's also part of the thing of I can't fully commit because I haven't seen all of the story. I've read the book, or I'm currently reading the book um properly now, highlighted and everything. Trying to understand fully the same way, the same chance I gave Islam, I'm trying to give it to Christianity. And that's where I'm scared of being wrong and wasting time. I'm scared of not finding the love of God, or not feeling God soon enough. Maybe one day I will feel His love, but until then, it's always going to be the constant fear of, what if it's too late? What if the trumpets call and it's time for everyone, and it's there's nothing I can do after that. I guess that's the fear a lot of people, a few people, especially in my unique situation, have, where you can say you love him, you act on him, but then what does it really mean to feel everything about God? I understand that they say that you only need a mustard seed's level of faith. I mean, a mustard seed is like this small. You only need that much faith to make it into heaven. But then I'm not trying to make it into heaven. I'm trying to have a relationship with God. And I can't have the full relationship with God when all I've done is hear about them and learn about Him, but I've never experienced Him. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I've heard of this person, I've learned His laws, I love His laws. The icing on top is just to meet Him, and then the story is complete. And what if I never feel Him? What if I never meet Him? I will never know, and it'll be too late. And then I'd live a life without the person that I've admired for so long. The person that you have adopted and basically change your life or cater your life to and put that center. What if you never get to be with that person, or never get to meet them or have that experience? That's where I am to current day with religion, where I still read, I still practice, I still pray, but I don't know. And I guess I'm gonna have to be okay with it. I tried compressing this video, but it didn't work. I guess it's another 49-minute long video, and sorry, but this, I guess, is just a footnote for me. Thank you for watching. This has been Thoughts with Audie. Hope you have a good day. Bye.